Greetings and welcome to this week's episode of the Pixel Crashers podcast, starring Kev the Gamer, Xaiphen, who's trying to be as quiet as possible.
Shit, I showed up.
NightRose, and myself, Angelus de Mortiel. It is the 23rd of March, 2019, and holy shit, we're going to try to cram through a lot of stories tonight, because apparently we're just masochistic and enjoy this.
Sounds legit.
Yeah. I'd first like to just give this briefest of little fun. I don't know what's that. Xaiphen's putting shit in the chat. You know, whatever.
Yes. It was a little quiet, so I had to do something.
Stop siphoning up the chat, Xaiphen.
Yeah, stop siphoning up the chat.
Well, that is way too simple to be siphoned up.
Anything can be siphoned up. We figured out how to siphon up walking and chewing bubble gum.
I'm no longer prohibited from doing that.
At least in the eastern United States.
I'd like to start off by just saying, finally, Halo is coming home.
Yeah.
Thank you, Phil. Praise Phil Spencer.
Which, you know, and I mean, hell, you know, since we got so much shit that we have to go through, let's just kind of jump right into that. And Kev, why don't you tell us about this announcement that Phil Spencer said whenever you were in bed with him?
What glory! Halo Master Chief coming to PC. Glorious! That's all I got.
Well, it's not just that it's coming to PC.
It's coming to Steam, motherfucker.
Yeah.
It's glorious. It's beautiful.
It was kind of, yeah.
And the Red Reach.
That's the one that surprised me the most. Is like, you know, it's not locked to the Microsoft store. Microsoft, like, we want to reach as many people as possible, but on Steam.
They got tired of doing these ports and not getting paid for them.
What, they don't want to put it on Epic and maximize their profits?
Well, they make more money than Epic, so they're not they're not caring about the greedy quick payout like other people.
Well, not only that. The Epic Store is officially the new Uplay. Like, we everybody thought they hated Uplay, and then somebody came up with a system that's even shittier than Uplay. So people are like, you know, Uplay ain't that bad. I'm gonna fuck with Uplay.
Hang on, we're not on Epic Fails yet. We'll get there.
We'll get there. We have an entire segment that's going to be dedicated to Epic Fails a little bit later on.
One thing that for me, it helps with my OCD is the Master Chief Collection is being released in chronological order of the story. So it's going to start with Reach and move on from there, which to me, that agrees with my OCD. I like that.
I just want to know, we're getting all of them but 5.
Yeah.
Why isn't 5 on the list?
That is.
Are we going to add 5 at the end? Because they said Halo Master Chief Collection plus Reach. Well,
last I read about anything, they were planning on making another game. So we're looking at Halo 6, and that one was supposed to be completely, the complete game is supposed to be available on PC. What they're probably going to do is wait until at least maybe the announcement of, the official announcement of the new game, and then put out 5, to see how many more people they can collect on that one right before they release 6.
I'm just hoping that the Halo community on PC will be fire. That's why I like that they're doing like these stagnated releases, even though it also sucks you have to buy each game one by one. Apparently, that kind of sucks. But I'm thinking about the multiplayer. You know, I never played Halo Reach multiplayer. In fact, I mostly played the 343 Halos as far as multiplayer goes. So it'll be cool to go back and get to play Reach's multiplayer. And then when they put out Combat Evolved, I know I'll get dominated in there for a while because people have been playing that shit for like 20 years probably now.
Oh, yeah.
And Halo 2 come.
There's people that are out of practice on that shit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but they're mostly in this podcast.
We're the last 4 people around.
Exactly.
Fuck you.
Oh yeah, you know it. What was it? Oh yeah, but it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be great. I'm happy because I no longer will have the desire to buy an L box. You don't understand how much I enjoy.
You don't want to use that to. Well, we'll get to that.
I'll use an Xbox to hold up a monitor. Shout out to my girl Erica, because that's what she does, and that's where I got the idea. She has an Xbox One under her monitor as a monitor stand, and it is great.
Seems like a good
That's
idea.
the right way to do things.
Yeah,
Right.
I can see
Well,
that
it's
as a
fun-
legitimate
I'm
use for an
using
Xbox.
something
Or-
now. These
see,
three
the-
letters make it confusing
She's
to a lot of
primarily
people.
a console player, though. That's what makes it funnier.
I see. The
She
thing
just
is,
doesn't fuck with the Xbox One like that.
see, I would do it with a PlayStation, but the PlayStation doesn't really have the right amount of lift to it, so it really doesn't have any use at all.
You know what I'm using as a monitor stand is even less useful than an Xbox. It's a VCR. Now, I know those three letters are very strange to a lot of people. We were just talking about Blockbuster earlier, too.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah, I mean, well, Blockbuster, you know, the reason why I've been on such a Blockbuster kick, not because of Captain Marvel, although, let me just get out of the way. Kamehameha. Anyway, moving on off of the Captain Marvel. It's not just, well, let's tie up the Halo story, and then we'll get to Blockbuster and other companies that are going to be like Blockbuster soon. One of the things, yeah, I am
It's not going to play anywhere.
Yeah, one of the things
on console players.
One of the things I am kind of interested though is why they didn't throw Halo 5 in here though. But I feel like that. Do you guys think it was a Bungie deal that might have been like? Is there different licensing with the Bungie properties?
Selection is the Bungie made games, as far as I know.
But the MCC was a 343 project. Bungie had no hands in it at all.
Yeah,
So
fair enough.
Bungie was long gone for Master Chief Collection. That was supposed to be the killer app at when the Xbox One first came out, and it was a shit show.
Yeah,
I
remember Kev raging so
broken
bad.
game this generation.
Yeah,
I was hurt, and it probably is the most broken game of the generation, and it's so sad because it could have been amazing. You could have been special, but now you
could have been a
PC.
contender.
it's a contender. But yeah, well, the thing is though, is that as interesting as the Master Chief Collection might be, is bringing back something old. Let's also talk about something new that Xbox is doing, and we're working our way towards companies that are going to be like Blockbuster very soon. But let's talk about something else that you can now make better use of the Xbox that doesn't have any games, according to Kev.
Xbox has no games.
And let's talk about now you can use it as a glorified Steam Link.
Yeah. The Xbox One X is now what's the current price on it? 500, 400?
It was 500 at launch. I'm assuming it's not 5 anymore.
It's a $500 wireless display adapter.
Yeah, pretty much.
In fairness, what people forgot about too, like you can stream to the Xbox or stream to your PC. They put that out there like the first E3 after the Xbox came out, where you could stream your Xbox to the PC. But people were just like, "Why would I do that?" That's what people said. Why would I do that?
To the point, on this podcast, we said, "Why would you do that?"
I tried the tech. The tech it works okay. I'm talking about going from the Xbox to my PC. I tried it back then. It worked fine, but I just didn't see the point. Like, I would just buy a Steam Link. Or at the time, you could just use a laptop with an HDMI cable. Just plug it into your TV and stream it that way if you must.
I think maybe the idea was for people who had potatoes, not just a potato, a 20-year-old potato. Even a modern potato would be better for streaming from the Xbox to a PC. I think that's what the idea behind it.
Would be better than an Xbox One. What's your point?
Well, that's why I said a modern potato would be better, but it had to have been like a 20-year-old potato.
No. A modern potato is better than an Xbox One in every way.
I know. That's why I said the idea, the usefulness would be for a 20-year-old potato.
No. What I'm saying is, the 20-year-old potato is still better than the Xbox One.
You just talking about potatoes for like 5 minutes.
Well, half of us are Irish on here.
So potatoes
Maybe I should
aside,
start
we're
eating a potato.
yeah, we're just gonna start eating potatoes here. Brought to you by Ore-Ida. They are not sponsoring the show.
The Razor can.
In any case, no. The thing
Okay,
is that well, yeah. What my thought is now, to be clear, there is a bit of a benefit over using an Xbox with a wireless display app versus using a Steam Link. Steam Link tends to try to encapsulate everything through Steam. Even if you try to run another launcher, sometimes the interactions are a bit janky. Whereas the wireless display app is literally as it sounds. You're just using the Xbox as an endpoint for wireless display projection, which is actually something that Microsoft has already had for a while. They have wireless display adapters, and in fact, this application uses Miracast just like their other wireless display adapters already use. So it's not really shocking or revolutionary technology. Microsoft themselves have had it for quite a while. The catch is it just adds you don't have to buy extra hardware in order to use it if you already have an Xbox.
Which nobody has an Xbox, and that's why they got destroyed by PlayStation and Switch this generation.
There's probably some people that have it out there.
done.
But the main thing
Yeah,
is, though, is that this kind of goes into a little bit of a flavor that we have about streaming in general. And while the wireless display streaming is just, and also Steam Link and Steam in-home streaming are just kind of like they're the first little baby step to the future of gaming, which, you know, Kev, I know, super excited about this because he's been tweeting. He's been tweeting about Google Stadia for the past couple of days. I think that he actually has Google tattooed on his lower back now. So
say no to tramp stamps.
Isn't that the Stadia symbol that's on your shirt right now?
I
can't see enough of it, so I'm speculating.
I mean, if you want to get a copyright struck, it's Mario.
Yeah. No. So moving on into this story though, because this is actually something that's significant, and as I was talking about Blockbuster on here, so what Google announced this past week is essentially probably the most robust streaming games platform. And we've seen streaming game platforms in the past, like OnLive, which ended up getting bought by Sony and now powers Sony's, what was it called? PlayStation Now? Is that the one, Kev?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, PlayStation Now.
Yeah, so that actually powers PlayStation Now, which arguably is all right, but it's been plagued with a lot of issues. And that's pretty much the same thing.
All right is giving them way too much credit.
Well, and that's
they got laggy PS2 games.
Yeah, that's virtualizing the actual direct games. You also have other servers that do everything up to virtualizing an entire PC to game on, and they all tend to kind of have some fatal flaw or another where either their price is too high or they're too laggy, not good enough infrastructure, etc., etc. There's multitudes of issues that have come up with streaming platforms. Now, I've tested out. Obviously, I was beta testing Project Stream, back over the winter time, and actually had a pretty good experience. At first, it was rocky as shit, and I came on the podcast here. I was like, oh, it's crap. It's all crap. And then the next week, I'm like, yeah, it's not crap.
For me, it started out playing. The issue I had was being able to shut down the damn game. I couldn't even Alt F4. It locked out Alt F4. I had to pop open the task manager and then kill Chrome from there.
Mm-hmm. But I think I think one of the biggest parts on there though is that there is a certain degree of I don't know how to put it right. There's a certain degree of apprehension the market has over having an actual streaming game service. A lot of people like to have physical games all around, which I think is probably one of the biggest catches on there. But
the problem is PC games aren't physical anymore. They're all fucking digital. haven't been able to buy a physical
Well,
game in a while.
some of the idea, if it replaces it, I see a problem with that. If it supplements, games as they were or as they are, then that may be a problem. But another big apprehension, yeah, I totally pronounced that weird. Another big apprehension is that this is Google. Google undertakes large projects, and it's not like, oh, we're still in beta stage. They're like, we're fully rolling this out, and then just fucking abandons it. Like Google Fiber or Allo, or there's a long list. I should just really stop. It's going to take up our whole podcast to go through Google's abandoned project list.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is that, that you've seen that a lot. You've seen them abandon projects and they rarely get to an actual mainstream release, which this one did. But something I kind of notice on there is that whenever you're dealing with something like this, if you looked at the movie industry, right? Movie industry went from physical and it had this brief stint of digital before streaming just came and swept over the whole thing, right? And now everything is streaming. Like the physical movie or show medium is largely just a remnant. Like I just see bargain bins of DVDs everywhere. Like Walmart practically begs people to please buy DVDs. And about the best in that market that's actually still in making money out of the business is Redbox. And that's really it. Whereas in gaming, we went from physical, and then we've had a longer stint of digital, because I think largely just because the infrastructure hasn't been there to support it. And I think that's the key difference, is that it takes a little bit more robust infrastructure in order to support a streaming games platform as opposed to movies.
Yeah, streaming movies does not have problems with the delay. That's where the a video buffering makes up for that, but you can't do that with a game where you need near one-to-one interaction with it. There can be a little bit of delay on some games, and it won't really affect how you play it that much. Some games it would be a lot more significant, but when that delay grows too much, then there's a big issue from that. Plus, it's also a more effective two-way communication, as opposed to you just say, your outgoing communication is say, hey, I want to watch this, and then it's all being fed back to you, and that's it. Whereas the games are this constant outgoing communication to the system to make it work properly.
While we're nerding out on the tech, and the tech is great and all, let's think about the consumer too. Think about how much freedom as the consumer you are losing, you are giving up when you go to an all-streaming future, especially on the PC.
That's one of the list of apprehensions that people have about this, and particularly people who like to mod their games.
I'm thinking mods. I'm thinking even like custom graphics, custom frame rates. This isn't going to go well on the PC side. This is going to be amazing for console players.
I think it's going to work on PC in the same respect that if you're using it to get your hands on games that you may not necessarily want to buy. If you were to be able to still buy the game and then mod it, so let's say you were to stream Skyrim and you loved it, you wanted to buy it so you could mod it. I could see this being more of what we've lost in that you can use it as a trial.
I hear you, but going to the technical side of it now, PC gamers will argue over the difference between a 1 millisecond delay monitor and a 5 millisecond delay monitor.
Let's be honest, that's a very small minority of people.
Yeah, that's usually people who are getting into competitive gaming.
Yeah,
which is a large portion of the community, which makes my point. The most popular games on PC these days tend to be esports. You mean to tell me that this is going to work for them? This is going to work.
No.
So
I see this as most ideal as a linear single player.
Let's put it out there, Kev. The way I kind of can equate the professional like tournaments and that sort of thing level of PC gaming, I kind of equate that in a similar way that I would equate like going to a theater to see a movie. So theaters.
I'm not talking about just the people who do tournaments.
Follow me out here,
I'm talking about
right? Follow me here, all right? So essentially with theaters, right? Theaters don't stream movies. They don't go to Netflix to get their movies yet. I mean, maybe in the future. They have the thing is that there are still a few niche theaters out there that still use reel-to-reel for their projectors, but most have moved to digital. And actually have digital formats for their movies, which is kind of and it is still physical, but technically could still be living on a computer for all we care, and there wouldn't be much difference, right? So in that's kind of where digital has lived on in the movie medium. And I think that in gaming, it's a similar place where digital, I think, will live on a lot in the tournament space, where every little fraction of a second reaction will matter. Now, that
wasn't the point I was making. That's nowhere near the point that I was making.
Hold on. I'm getting there. And this is something I mentioned to Kevin, mentioned other places, is that now streaming, I think Stadia launches tomorrow, and not a lot of people are going to buy into it because, even, like I said, Assassin's Creed Odyssey played pretty damn well. I only had some issues because my internet connection's not the best, to be frankly honest, and I think that's a major hurdle that streaming games has to overcome, is that even in the US, there's probably 60% of the country has a subpar internet connection. And that's the long and short of it. Now, theoretically, there's no evidence that this is going to happen, but theoretically, everybody's talking about the internet infrastructure in the United States and in most first world countries moving to the 5G standard, which is millimeter wave. The reason why I'm kind of skeptical on how quickly that will happen is because millimeter wave has an extremely short range, so they have to install hundreds of little hubs. Essentially, the range is only maybe about 3 times better than a Wi-Fi router.
Pretty much you're looking at a hub on every single telephone pole on your street.
Exactly. Yeah, they're going to have an extensive amount of hardware in order to saturate an area properly, and most of that will probably also be in the most densely populated areas. So your rural parts of the country are again still going to get the shaft. Now, once that gets deployed, though, the major benefit of 5G is the fact that the latency goes down to near real-time speeds. And that I'm talking, granted that I'm connecting from a millimeter wave connection on point A, or and connecting to an endpoint that has a similar connection speed and bandwidth, then I will have a millisecond or a few millisecond connection latency, which is
it is actually the same latency as last mile fiber. Fiber direct to your house, and a lot of companies dealing with fiber are actually shortcutting and cheaping out on that, where they'll get fiber to a neighborhood hub and then run copper wire last mile. But if you've got last mile fiber, which fiber is technically the landline 5G effect, well, yes, but no. It's effectively, a wired 5G effect. So you're looking at 5G wireless, which will have fiber benefits to it without having to do fiber all the way to your house.
Yep. And I think,
what gets me on it is they're going to have to put out so many hubs on there. The cost is actually going to be higher than running fiber to every single house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because fiber is expensive, but still.
Different companies, though. That's the key.
Yeah,
is that
true.
The last mile fiber would be run like Comcast, and we know how Comcast is. They don't give a fuck about running fiber to everybody because they control the areas that they have jurisdiction in. They get the laws passed, and they prevent any competition. Now,
speaking of Google's abandoned fiber project, they actually kicked AT&T in the ass to roll out their fiber faster in Louisville.
Well, that was the whole. They stated from the get-go that the entire point of Google Fiber was to start to light a fire under people's asses and demonstrate. It was more of a proof of concept to demonstrate that
was their original idea, and then they started making some money off of some of their first rollouts. Mm-hmm. Granted, they're buy-in cost, but they were projecting, potential profit margins on long term. So they're like, we're going to expand this a little bit more, and then they started running into legal blockages, and
from other ISPs.
Yeah, they tried to get creative. Yeah, exactly. They tried to get creative on the way around that, and that's where everything fell apart. Microtransaction became way too much of a pain in the fucking ass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's, at what point they just kept getting blockers from every fucking ISP.
We done went so far left.
But it did help with the original idea of kicking people in the ass, and I think that's going to do something similar for game streaming too, because there's Microsoft's Project X Cloud as well.
Yes.
Which, as far as I know, is not as far along, but it's probably going to have similar level benefits. The more or less the biggest differences between the two, I think, is the technical background. You have Google is going to run on their is going to run on open source Vulkan Linux, and then Microsoft is going to run on their proprietary Windows and DirectX.
Yeah. What does all of this have to do with what I guess because we derailed off the point I was trying.
That's what I was going back to our game streaming, because Microsoft is coming up with their own game streaming Project X Cloud.
My major point on that was the latency, and that's the major complaint that a lot of major gamers would have is, oh, the latency. And I'm like, well, if 5G gets up and running, that latency won't be really much of an issue. However, the modding is something that I see as a concern. I definitely agree. I mean, you do have in-game modding frameworks like the Skyrim Special Edition thing, but that also my problem with that one is no. I'm not talking about the Creator Club or whatever. I'm talking about like Fallout 4 and Skyrim Special Edition have built-in just regular modding frameworks in there where you can browse stuff and whatever. My complaint is that they seem to be kind of limited in some of the stuff they can do. Like, for example, you can't do a script extender in that particular framework. You have to still go outside and use like Nexus Mod Manager, installed script extender, and so on. And that I don't know if you'll be able to do off of Stadia. Now, I read somewhere, and I couldn't actually find it in there, but there was a mention that there would be support for modding. And I'm like, we'll see.
Yeah.
A lot
People
of it.
like Ubisoft, though, will probably love this because it will be a much more extreme way of locking down DRM.
Oh, yeah. Good luck pirating this shit. And I think that right there is probably the biggest reason why I think that it's going to gain major traction, is because you're going to see a lot of those big corporate publishers saying, wait, you mean that we can have this game on a streaming service and not have to worry about locking down DRM or anything like that? That just makes all the fucking shareholders of those companies watering at the mouth for.
And that's going to come down to how the business is implemented. If it is a monthly service, if it's a subscription for the game stream, and then that's it. Whatever games they have in their library, you have access to. Play one at a time. You got access to only one at a time. But if that's that, publishers are not going to be quite as keen on that because they're only going to make so much money. But if it's you pay per game to stream that game, you pay for each game, which more than likely is the way it's going to go, then their publishers are definitely going to wet themselves over it.
Yeah. And that, yeah. Now, Kev, I know that you have some other thoughts on there.
I've forgotten my thoughts every time I try to get them out. I get cut off, so I just gave up.
No, it's mostly what I was getting at is from the business angle, and I know that you were mentioning that from like say professional gamers and stuff like that. They argue.
I wasn't saying anything about professional gamers.
Okay,
that wasn't my point.
Oh,
that's why I tried to stop you in the beginning, and you kept going. What I was talking about was even the people that aspire to do it. I don't care about that top 1%. That top 1% is irrelevant here. We're talking about your average everyday gamer, because your 1%, like you were talking about with the digital downloads, they're going to have those at the esports tournaments. That just makes sense. But if your average everyday Joe, who maybe I'm going to use the term because I don't know what term they're using these days, like the old Call of Duty pub stompers, you have those in every game. And you have these kinds of guys, yeah, the timing's going to be kind of important to these guys too. And they're going to be in those kind of guys, the people that want to get to there aren't going to want to deal with this. The people who, you're not going to get the casuals because It's going to be expensive at first, and it's not going to be as well known. And most casuals don't jump on the new technology right away, and you're not going to get the tryhards right away because the tryhards are going to be like, I play better on a local connection. That's that's a big part of my concern. Then you have the people who are like, oh, I'm going to do it because it's new tech. I'm calling them the Xaiphens of the world. I think Xaiphens is somebody that if the price was right, he would jump on it just because he likes the tech. But not sure that that's enough people overall in games to make this worthwhile. In the PC space, maybe.
See, I'm a big fan of localizing my software, though. I do not have cloud reliance. I have a home cloud. So yes, you have a little bit of a point that I might be willing to jump on it, but I'm still on the very much this is a supplement or a complement to what I already have. I do not want this to be the be all end all in any way, shape, or form.
Right, and I'm saying the guys that are like you, they love the tech behind it. Where sometimes I think you might like the tech behind it more than the practicality of it. And like you said, it won't be your end all be all, but you're more willing to try it than say somebody like me who just wants this shit to work.
Yeah, but the thing is, my major point, is that as far as an approachability and accessibility standpoint, as the infrastructure of internet improves, wouldn't streaming games be more approachable? Like you just literally log into your account from wherever you happen to be. You're on a Chromecast. You don't even need a fucking console. You have a TV, a smart TV. Launch up your streaming games platform. Boom, you got your controller right there. Done.
And that's why I say the console, because I don't think the console audience will give a shit.
Yeah.
The console audience they're not bothered by the minor inconveniences like that, like say a PC player. I actually think the idea is hella convenient. At first, I was like, "Oh man, this is amazing," and then I started thinking about all the things that we're losing, and I'm like, "Yeah, this probably won't play on PC." The shareholder, the businesses will love it, but I don't think the average everyday PC gamer.
Some of the console people will jump into it just because of the low barrier to entry. Low
I think a
cost
lot
entry.
of them will. A lot of them will, depending on how
And
much
you got
it
a lot
costs.
of them are already used to paying subscription payments, so that's not going to be anything new to them. So they buy what is it, $100 Chromecast Ultra, with the controller, and then the $10 a month or whatever it is subscription payment.
I agree with you. I think if they can get it right, I think where a lot of console players kind of have a negative idea about it now is a lot of them will end up with PlayStation Now.
Yeah,
PlayStation Now isn't a great service.
Yeah, can I also make a small note on here? If Google is smart and this turns out to be what they're doing, and they price it competitively against, like, say, well, what is the EA Origin Premier one cost? I'm trying to remember.
The top end one is $60 a year.
$60 a year, so it's the same price as Xbox Live and PS Plus.
Yes. They have the basic one is $30 a year though.
Yeah, no. I'm looking at that.
They tiered it.
If Google aims their target price, and maybe they offer a cheaper option too, but say they essentially attack the business model of EA Premier / Xbox Live PS Plus and say you pay $60 a year, you get access to whatever library of games we have available, kind of like a Netflix, if you will. Where essentially we have, and the concern I already saw someone raised on there was Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, all those guys, they will rotate content in and out on a periodic basis. Usually it's there for a while, but there's
two sides to those. There's content that they own that stays there. And then there's content that they don't own that they rotate as, it comes time to renew the license. Oh, we're not getting a lot of views. Let's get rid of it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something someone had a concern with. But if a $60 a year, you want all the access to everything, I see that as being something where that to me is a $60 a year. I'm not saying I would necessarily buy it because, like, I don't know, I don't necessarily feel like there's a huge amount of value for me personally. But compare that to the value that Xbox Live or PS Plus offers, I can say that would be a better offer to me. That's worth it. Yeah.
The one thing is like if Steam were to do this, if they were to offer their entire game library for $60, a year and you stream it, I could see them doing some limitations, like you can only stream 1 game at a time or 2 games at a time or something.
Like check in,
But
check
I
out.
mean,
They
check
already
in, check out.
Steam already does it with Steam Family Share. Like where only one
Exactly.
person on the account can play the game.
Yeah.
If they were to do that, they've already got a little bit of the backbone, and then you're doing it kind of like you did fucking Netflix when it first started. What about being able to download the game? Because it's already on their platform, you're paying
Yep.
for a temporary license, you're checking out one game like you would, say, in a library. If you were to do it that way, I could get behind this.
Yeah. I could see, and the thing is that now the catch on there, the upside downside of this is that I do see, I see the argument for being allowed to download the game, but I do also, I can also say that there is a certain argument for that kind of defeats the purpose of it being a streaming platform, right?
I like the choice.
Yeah, I think having the choice might be
Right.
good.
Microsoft has it right. Microsoft already has Game Pass, which is basically like what they're trying to do, but it's all downloads. And they're coming out with Project xCloud, which is essentially going to be
xCloud is not going to be say exactly the same as Google's.
Right, that's what I was getting at. You cut me off. It's more of a competitor to PlayStation Now.
No, actually, it's potentially not going to be. It's going to be a hybrid. Project xCloud is looking at the possibility of partial game downloads into their stripped down console that's going to be dedicated for it. The way that's going to work is it's going to download just essential pieces of the game to help it run smooth over the total network. So whatever low process or low hardware can run well, then it'll have that on your system. It's more or less it's advancing a certain amount of game cache that requires low processing level, as opposed to, say, Stadia it's entirely streamed.
Mm-hmm. I can't say
that that's a minor gripe in it, though. That's minor.
It may perform better as a result of that. It may perform significantly better, even.
To be frankly honest, even from my experience on there. So to be clear on here, because obviously many people aren't aware of what's powering a lot of these offerings that are coming up on here. And to be frankly honest, I haven't looked to see if there's anything yet, but don't be surprised if you also see something like this coming from Amazon. The reason why is because Amazon, Microsoft, Google are the three biggest, by a long shot, three biggest cloud providers in the world. Right? Amazon by far is the biggest. Now, most people don't know what that is. Most people don't realize that the majority of money that Amazon makes, and the reason why they're one of the richest companies in the world, is not because of that storefront, that marketplace. It's because of their Amazon Web Services, their cloud platform, that tons of infrastructure around the world has moved off of having physical servers and onto having cloud servers that they spin up through Amazon.
Well, a lot of people think of it, it's not even just storage. A lot of people think of it as storage. There's storage in there as well. But these cloud platforms, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, and Amazon Web Services, it's cloud processing, because people were doing like major research into something. They don't want to buy multiple $1 million of machines when they can rent out a section of Amazon Web Services for like $10,000. It's a hell of a lot more cost effective, and it has all the power there ready to go.
Well, there's multiple pieces. I'm not going to delve into the technicalities of it too much.
Looking at one angle of it.
There's computational power. There is infrastructure, which is what I was talking about, and that's the most predominantly used. Essentially, me being able to spin up my servers, my Active Directory servers and that sort of thing in the cloud. And then there's storage, which I think is just, that's the pretty basic level. But the major thing on there, Google Stadia is running off of Google's cloud, which people are like, oh, what, Google? That's not going to run very well. Well, the thing is Google has thousands of data centers all around the world that get pretty damn close to you. And that's the major hurdle with streaming technologies. And the reason why, to me, OnLive and PlayStation Now never really ran very well is because they didn't have the localization down quite as far. Because Sony doesn't even have anything remotely close to what those other companies have for like a network of infrastructure. They would probably just power it off of Amazon.
And you also got to think like how rushed a PS Now was compared to these others. Like Microsoft xCloud, I'm sure they've been working on it longer than before they announced it. Same as Google, they've been working on it for the past several years. I have no doubt about that.
Yeah, but in any case, just to be clear, those are running off of infrastructures that are very, very well established, very stable. And that's someone else made a comment like, well, is this going to have 100% uptime? Well, that's completely unrealistic. No. Well, the truth is my PC doesn't have 100% uptime. Why would I expect a cloud infrastructure to do that?
There will be outages. Most likely the outages will be related to your ISP. Go ahead, Kat, sorry.
Oh, you're good. I'm just saying that every piece of technology is going to have an outage. From your cell phone, your personal computer, your internet. Yes, this is going to have outages. Xbox Live PSN have outages all the time. Steam has outages all the time.
Yeah. The thing is,
why would you expect perfect uptime?
The nice thing about it is on the enterprise side, all of these cloud providers, whenever a business signs up with them, one of the stipulations in the agreement is what's known as an SLA, a service level agreement.
Service level agreement.
Yeah, for uptime. So a lot of them will claim like a 90% or a 99% uptime SLA.
And even 99% is ridiculous.
Oh yeah, well the thing is
they're common, but they're ridiculous.
Microsoft Azure has an SLA of a 99% uptime SLA.
I'm aware. I've worked with Azure.
So
I still think it's ridiculous.
Yeah, the thing is what that means is that over the year contract, over a year of the contract piece, they have to have their services online 99% of that year. If not, they are liable to pay penalties out of that contract. Now, what that means for you, the average consumer that might be listening, or anybody else here, is that if, say, xCloud, and by the way, Google has a similar SLA for their cloud services, so this could apply to Stadia as well. If there is an outage, the nice thing about it is that even without you having to do anything, or even without you having any sort of uptime SLA on your subscription to Stadia or xCloud or whatever, is that they're still going to be rushing like hell to get services back up, because those same services that are run for Stadia and xCloud are also running for their enterprise services, and they get charged if those don't get up quickly. So you benefit.
It may not
from
be in your interest that they're rushing to get that shit back up online, but you're still going to gain the benefit of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's something to note on there. That's pretty nice. Also, the comment about the Google Stadia service being more powerful than an Xbox and a PS4. I mean, that's just throwing shade at them, because they're kind of, I think they're aiming at the console market is really where they're going for. To be honest with you, the numbers that they threw up where they had that screen where they said 10 teraflops or whatever, they could go more. They could go higher if they wanted.
And they should, because now they're going to put that in the next gen consoles. Like 10 teraflops of power, that's about my GTX 1080.
They're going
to try to go beyond that.
The thing is that Google technically, and Microsoft, anybody doing a streaming platform like Amazon, Microsoft, or Google, they can have hundreds of teraflops if they want, because they have data centers full of hundreds of server racks that are filled with fucking GPUs. That are designed for AI and cloud computing and that sort of thing. So you think that your console's ever going to touch what a cloud service provider can do? You're delusional.
Maybe that's what I was. Years.
Yeah.
Not even, because PCs are still going to get faster.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
it's like it's a computer. It's still a computer. It's infinitely upgradable.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's developing the the technology.
And by the way, that is also the last point. Well, I wanted to get on there is, do you guys think that the value proposition on this does make a little bit of better sense with the idea that you don't have to upgrade your hardware ever, you play whatever the newest game that's on the service and the oldest game that's on the service. Equally the same.
I honestly don't want to change, and this is old man Kev probably. I don't want to change how things are now for the most part. In terms of how I get my games, I think it's fine. I like that I still have control. I like that I still think digital downloads are convenient. I get it. You have to wait for downloads. Internet speed will get faster over time. However,
games will get bigger though too.
That's fine.
I also want to point out that, I mean, you don't really own your games now.
Well, no, it's not about ownership. It's for me. It's about controls, but don't take my games away because it's just
unless you bought them from GOG.
Okay, so Kev, can we just like get it out of the way and just have you start saying, "Get off my lawn"?
Yes.
Do it. Do it.
Nah. it ain't that.
He doesn't want to
change his background.
You do own your games if you buy them from GOG.
That's probably the idea. Oh, you know what? I did forget. By the way, guys, sorry. On the one host screen, he had his persona background, and I forgot to change on the other one. I apologize for that.
Yeah, as soon as you swapped over, went back to Little Destiny. It's all good.
Yeah. So yeah, and I'll just point out the reason for that is, of course, the Persona 5 Royal update. I figured that was a good way to commemorate. I don't even play Persona, and I'm still like, yeah.
I did Persona on
You
PC.
need to play.
Like I need air in my lungs.
Yeah,
I know you'd have to buy it for a fucking PlayStation, but Atlas is looking at porting it over. So
if they do it, as long as it's not on Epic, which while we're talking about Epic,
let's keep it 100 too. When they port it to something else, they'll probably port it to the Switch because there's just as many rumors of Persona coming to the Switch as there is to it coming to PC.
Yeah,
it hurts.
And I mean, no, the thing is it's great. I love all these games coming to the fucking Switch. Like, you know, I know all the fanboys for like Xbox are upset because all these Xbox games are going to the Switch. I personally
no. There's only one Xbox game on the Switch. That's Cuphead.
Yeah.
This group of games that I think we're about to get at from Quantum Dream, those are all PlayStation games.
Yeah.
These are still fans pissed off.
Oh, fanboys from both sides are pissed off. And I don't. Me personally, I don't own a Switch, mind you, but I think that's awesome. I think it's awesome that more people get to enjoy a game. And if you personally, talking to the audience here that might be watching this, if you get upset because more people can enjoy a game that you also enjoyed, you might be a trash human being. I'm just throwing that out there. You know, just throwing that out there.
Did anybody check on J-Tech? Is he okay?
Yeah, no, the thing is that defending wanting games to be exclusive to the console you have, I get why you are protective of that as a fanboy. It's because the cognitive dissonance that you're feeling in the back of your head right now is telling you that you made a bad choice, but you don't want to believe that. So you want to fight to justify everything you can on why your purchase was correct.
It's so difficult to say, I was wrong, I made a whoopsie, instead just double down like, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, we've had this. I still think if you buy a console for exclusives, fine, whatever. That's why you chose to buy it. It's whatever to me. I buy the platform where the games that I want to play are on.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So
let's
moving on to.
There's a weird artifact on the Twitch in the story section.
I see it with the non-tech article there. Hashtag blame more.
No, it's not an artifact. That's that's what we're gonna touch on. This is our palate cleanser before we start delving into the shit.
So you cleanse your palate before eating the shit?
Yeah. Before we start vomiting a whole bunch of shit everywhere. No, the little palate cleanser we had was NVIDIA. And you know what, Xaiphen, why don't you tell us about
I'm going to lead with where this actually started from.
Yeah.
Before we get to what the headline says here. Crytek used their Cry engine to say, hey, you don't need a lot of you don't need the RTX processing power for ray tracing. They used a Vega 56, not the 64. They used the cheaper Vega 56 and I don't know what the game demo is off the top of my head. It ran 4K at 30 frames with ray tracing on, and it looked beautiful. And then after that, people are like, "Wait a minute, you can do ray tracing on AMD? What the fuck?" Realizing that there's a software side of it, and they ran this on Vulkan too, as far as I know, not DirectX. So they did it, non-proprietary, because NVIDIA makes use of Microsoft DirectX ray tracing, and that's does require a lot of processing overhead. But they're like, "Oh yeah," NVIDIA to counter that, like, "Oh, yeah, we're gonna unlock ray tracing all the way back to the 10 series cards."
Can we get a fucking video in the comments? Any fucking video in the chat for now. Fucking video.
By the way, they could have done this the whole time if the game was optimized for it. But we're just going to tell you this now after we sold enough RTX.
Right.
Yeah. And that's the truth of it, is that what I find most amusing is that it was not like, I don't know, was it a day or something later that
it was like one day, that was it.
Yeah, it was one.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I thought my Discord crashed. It froze up for a second.
And that's what gets me most of all people to demo this. It was fucking Crytek. The company that was like, your latest and greatest, most top of the line powerful system, can it even run their game? Can it even run a CryEngine game? And now it's like, yeah, we make one of the more difficult processing systems, like the real-time ray tracing. Yeah, we got it on supposedly inferior technology.
Yep. I think that's fascinating. But you know what? This is when I like an open market, is whenever someone else can just go and take a piss on someone else's lawn, and it spurs that other person to do something better. And now,
like piss on their own lawn.
Yeah, now they're pissing on their own lawn. That was probably not the best analogy, but
Well, actually, you know what? It was a great analogy, because that's what happened.
So does this technically count as damage?
Lawn, and they countered with pissing on their own lawn.
Apparently, yes.
Does this technically count as NVIDIA trying to damage control?
I think so.
This is 100% damage control.
I think there is a partial percentage, but they're not advertising. Nobody is marketing it or spinning it this way. I think they're still trying to get rid of the fucking 10 series cards, because they overproduce way too much for crypto mining. Mm-hmm. So I think that's there's in the background, there's also using this to try and push getting rid of those GPUs.
So there's still being ingredient?
So much of them. And they refuse to drop the price enough for people to just give them away.
Yeah,
I'm just hearing that they're greedy.
Yeah, no, I mean, at what point do we not know that NVIDIA is greedy as hell? They
master race.
Yeah, I love that. I love their claim. NVIDIA's official numbers are that RTX cards are 2 to 3 times faster than GTX cards. According to whom?
If they're specifically looking at DirectX real-time ray tracing, that is it.
Yeah, it's like
factor. No.
What cracks me up is that it's like yes, and I'm sure that the RTX 2080 Ti is 2 to 3 times faster than the GTX 1070 or 1060. Then again, the GTX 1080 Ti is also 2 to 3 times faster than the 1060. But whatever. Anyway, now that it is officially 8 o'clock, which means it is time for our new segment of the show, Epic Fails.
That is glorious.
No, Kev. No.
So,
that was an epic fail right there.
Yeah. Kev epic failed. Kev was just demonstrating.
Thank you for starting us out, Kev, with proper epic fail.
Yes, Kev is demonstrating just how much fun this is going to be. Kev does fail a lot, guys. But we try to hide it to save his so he can save face publicly. So in any case, our first epic fail story of the night is talking about the client spyware. I mean, the game client. Yeah, the client. I get the two confused.
I
So
mean, it is spyware.
it is. So the thing is, now to give people a breakdown
Also
of
for
what
Fortnite.
happened. Yeah. To give people a breakdown of what happened here real quick, is essentially that in order for a lot of services that you might run across that connect with Steam in some way, they can sometimes access your Steam friends list, that's fine. There's a method to do that called an API, an application programming interface. And what that basically sums up in this particular example is that in your programming, you put essentially a website address with some commands around it and whatnot, and then it will go to that web address, grab specific information, and pull it back into your program. And then you can manipulate it and do stuff with it from there. Specifically, it is a one-way street. Your program requests information from that API address. The API address gives that information back, and that's it. That's all that happens. Nothing else. This is important because we're going to get into why Tim Sweeney is full of shit. I mean, this week.
He's been full of shit for a while.
Yeah,
I mean, I hope his eyes are brown because he's so full of shit. It's all the way up there.
Yeah, so essentially what was going on with the Epic client, when you would install it without you ever telling it to do anything, not when you tell it to connect your Steam account or anything like that, just when you install the client, no game installed at all. It goes and starts scanning several processes on your computer, some of which are linked to anti-cheat, which they're a little suspicious to me, but, you know, whatever, I get it, anti-cheat.
I'm okay with the looking for anti-cheat.
Anti-cheat I'm okay with, but one of the things that went out and scanned was a data file in Steam called the localconfig.vdi file, which contains a whole bunch of your account information, including your Steam friends list and their Steam IDs and a whole bunch of kind of personal information that you may not want Steam to have or want Epic to have. And the claim was from Team Sweeney is that in the early days of Fortnite, they wanted to do that because they didn't want to use the Steam API due to Epic's own user privacy concerns. Not regarding Steam's API in particular, because that's not the way an API works, but due to a general concerns of APIs collecting more data than expected. The reason why that's bullshit is that an API will only get the information you ask of it, right? And furthermore on that point, Steam's API can only really pull some very basic user profile information. Your games played, and your game time in those games played, your friends list, and your display name, and maybe the online, offline, and visible status. That's it. That's what you can grab from the Steam API. So, and the thing is that that's transparent. There is documentation. You can go and see what exactly the Steam API is pulling. Essentially, he pointed to an article talking about Facebook data harvesting. So he's trying to essentially equate Steam and their essentially saying that Steam doesn't have any privacy and compare it to Facebook, who is consistently in deep shit and getting fined left and right because of their horrible data privacy practices.
I mean, they leave your passwords in plain text for a decade.
Here's the difference between the Epic client and Facebook. Facebook has a little bit of sandboxing behind it. So the comparison of Facebook is like talking too much about yourself to a well-known snitch, whereas the Epic client is handing your house key to a known thief.
Well, so here's the thing:
they're both bad, but there's a different level of bad between those two.
No, the thing is with Facebook, Facebook to me is very fucking nasty. And the reason why is because there's a lot of applications that you might get from your mobile phone or on your computer or whatever that make use of Facebook's API. And it's not that the API is collecting anything unrequested. It's that the people making those applications that use the Facebook API skim that data themselves in their application and then deliver it to Facebook. The problem isn't, well, I mean, Facebook has the problem because they're allowing this and they put it into their API and they actually want people to do, or want programs to do that. So Facebook is bad in that regard, but let's not take the fault away from the people making those applications. It's not just Facebook. It takes two to tango on that one. In this particular case, in doing what Tim Sweeney is saying, essentially trying to say Steam's API is like Facebook's API library, essentially what he's saying is that he is one of those untrustworthy app developers that would skim data and send it back to Steam. That's what he's saying, essentially. So, take that for what you will.
Well, keep in mind, too, Tim Sweeney doesn't give a shit. Tim Sweeney doesn't give a damn fuck or shit about consumers, too. Let's be real about that.
No,
Tim Sweeney also went on record this week saying that, this game store war, the consumers have no say in this. This is about the developers. The developers are going to pick and choose.
Moving into our second story already, are we?
Oh, I didn't even realize that you had that down as a story. I was just I had forgotten about it.
By the way, this is Kev not reading the
No, I read
notes.
them. I read the notes. I've also read the stories throughout the week, like as they came to be. I just be forgetting shit.
A thing.
In Kev's defense, I'm going to play in Kev's defense. As much as we like to make fun of him, there are so many epic fails coming from Tim Sweeney. It is hard to sort.
What I'm saying, most of the time when we have these stories, I've heard about them days before I look at Mort's notes.
It's getting to the
I've
point
already
where it's
heard
hard to remember what epic fails we were talking about on what podcast.
There's a lot of epic fails that happen. There's also good news.
Because we've been dealing with epic fails for what, like past 4 podcasts?
I agree with Monkey in the chat. It was a perfectly natural segue. That's why I just rolled with it.
But the point is, Tim Sweeney basically says, fuck you.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Your choice doesn't matter. Give me money.
Just to wrap up,
I'm there.
Just to wrap up the last one on there, I just want to point out to people, if you install the Epic Game Launcher, there is a significant concern that you don't know what it's doing, because the average person out there is not going to be an information security engineer and know what to look for to see if this is skimming information. Now, I am not the type of person that wants to be conspiratorial. I can't emphasize that enough. I don't like being the conspiratorial guy. But Tim Sweeney
is an asshole.
So the thing is that for those of you who aren't aware, Epic is 40% owned by Tencent. And if you haven't heard of Tencent, that's because they are the world's largest conglomerate that you've never heard of. Go look up, Google Tencent, what does Tencent own? And you will find they have money in everything. You know what? Comically enough, we talk great about Digital Extremes and Warframe. Guess who has a stock in Digital Extremes?
Yeah.
Tencent. They are everywhere. They are. The thing is that they're this massive conglomerate, extremely rich, and the most important part, they are a Chinese company. And what that means, for those of you who don't know how China works, every Chinese corporation, the majority shareholder in that company is the Chinese government itself. And the Chinese government has demonstrated multiple times over the years that not only are they not really consumer friendly, but they also tend to try to put the enriching of their own nation first, which that's fine. They can do that if they want, as long as people are aware that's what they're doing. That's my problem. And then we can make our choice, our informed choice from there.
Make them aware of what you're doing, That doesn't fit into Chinese law. They don't
Well,
care about
it's
American
not just
laws.
Chinese law. It's a lot of businesses in general. They try to obfuscate what they're doing, and for that point, that's the
It
reason.
doesn't apply to China.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't apply to China.
That's part of the reason why Epic's maneuvers concern me so much is that, and we'll kind of get into more of what they're doing, but essentially, like this mindset, that what he's talking about in this story, like first of all, they have a game client that is performing actions akin to spyware. That's concern one when you have a spyware application that is your game launcher that could be delivering whatever information that we don't know about back to home base. That's a concern. Second concern, Tim Sweeney just outrightly says that consumers don't fucking matter. He can do what he wants just by buying off all the publishers, which is what he's demonstrated. This, mind you, this story came up before Epic announced the 2K deal. 2K, of course, which is I think the third story we have in the Epic fails.
With the Outer Worlds, yeah.
Yeah. And 2K, by the way, is huge. Obviously, that's Grand Theft Auto. That's the 2K Sports, the only sports franchises that compete with EA in any way. That's 2K is a huge publisher. And they've made mention a while ago that they were not going to get into the business of making a games launcher because, they didn't feel like that was necessary. Well, now it makes sense why.
Yeah.
They were working out a deal with Epic.
Now, let's remember what Tim Sweeney said. People brought this up a couple of years ago. Tim Sweeney was talking bad about the UWP in the Microsoft store.
Yeah.
Because he said Microsoft can't have a monopoly. Microsoft will ruin gaming. Microsoft will do everything that he is doing now with the Epic Store.
Yeah, 100. Oh, and the thing is that I think we covered a while back when we were talking about it. He actually responded to that and said, "No, it's totally not the same thing."
It
doesn't actually.
The internet doesn't forget.
And I'll say, by the way, he's not a dumbass. He is very smart because the thing is that it takes somebody that has some business knowledge and some marketing acumen to know that he is pulling the wool over the consumer's eyes. And for that
point, he's doing it semi-successfully, I'd hate to say, but
yeah.
consumers are exactly the most intelligent people anyways.
Mm-hmm.
I will admit that I am only so strong, though. If Persona goes exclusive to the Epic Store.
Don't do it, Kev. Don't do it. Pirate
Kev,
it.
Kev,
pirate it.
I'll just point it out here. For the most part, the trend seems to have been year-long exclusivity. And I personally, you have plenty of games in your back library. So
I'm not so strong.
My thing is the Outer Worlds. You guys know I've been fucking low-key hyped about that game.
The Outer Worlds is going to be on Windows Store.
Yeah, I'll wait a year until it's available through GOG, and then I'll buy it through GOG.
If it's available through GOG.
It will be.
It'll be published by 2K.
Yeah.
Or
no,
it's not very friendly through GOG. Now, I guess it doesn't bother me because I'm not a big GOG guy, and I use the Windows Store anyway. I actively use the Windows Store.
Yeah.
I have not bought anything on it, but I have made use of it for free apps. Halo 5 Forge, Forza, Apex 6, or whatever the fuck, the non-Horizon one.
I have one game through the Microsoft Store.
I don't have it on there anymore, but I've played it.
Was it Quantum? What was that?
Quantum Broke?
Yeah, Quantum Broke.
Which, put it this way. I have all of the Xbox One titles that went to the Windows 10 store, except for Sea of Thieves and Crackdown.
Yeah.
I had Crackdown on Game Pass.
That's
I don't know if I'm going to buy Crackdown.
But yeah, no.
Crackdown's okay.
No, my major thing on here, though, is that what he and Tim Sweeney knows, like, he's pretty much the Bond villain that can just outrightly tell the plucky hero exactly what he's going to do. I'm trying to remember what movie it was that I actually thought was pretty fucking awesome, where essentially the villain of the movie spells out his dastardly plan, and the guy was like, "Why would you tell me his plan?" He's like, I'm not a fucking idiot. I triggered it 30 minutes ago.
Yeah.
I can't remember what movie that was, but that was a
Maybe.
And he has like that Bond villain or whoever it was. He has been doing this, working this propaganda game for a while before the Epic Store came to light.
Could you fuck Tim Sweeney in the chat, please?
No. So in any case, my major thing on there is that is that he's essentially telling people that he's going to be successful at doing this, and it doesn't even matter what you have to say about it. Now the thing is that him doing this serves a couple purposes. Number one, he's essentially saying assuaging publishers that he might be courting currently to try to get them into exclusivity deals. He's essentially kind of courting them to assuage their fears and say it's not really going to matter because it's the consumers don't really decide. The consumers will just buy stuff wherever it is. That's not yeah. And the other part of it is to essentially any people that might be like consumers that might be on the fence about not sure whether they want to buy from Epic. What does it matter? It kind of gets them in a fatalistic mindset of what does it matter? It's going to be all Epic anyway. And that's kind of the concern on here is that if he successfully gets, and the thing is everybody from the publisher to the consumer should be concerned about the way that this is heading, because if he successfully buys out all the publishers, gets them on these year-long exclusivity deals, and is able to snuff out enough competition, GOG is already laying off employees from this. Like they're already feeling the pressure. So if he's able to choke off enough and start like really thinning out the competition, guess what? He can jack up those fucking revenue cuts to 40% instead of the 70-30 split that Steam and GOG offer. He can jack it up to 60-40. And where the fuck are you going to go? There's going to be no competition. He's already snuffed them out. And you helped.
It's the Walmart effect.
Yeah.
It is Walmart. It's Amazon. Amazon does this all the fucking time with their marketplace. They'll find someone like an independent retailer selling something on their marketplace, and what they'll do is they will say, "Oh, they're tracking all the analytics of the sales coming through there. They'll see if something's selling well, then they'll produce in-house their own version of that, an Amazon Basic version, and then they will start adjusting their search metrics to make the Amazon Basic one show up first in the search results on the Amazon store, and start muscling the other independent dealer out of the search results so you don't see it. If it's not on page one, most people aren't going to even click on it. And then that small business will start losing value, and then Amazon will come and buy them up. That
Capitalism.
That's corporatism. And
that's greedism.
That's greedism. Capitalism doesn't...
American capitalism.
Yeah, American... That's why I say corporatism. Is because on paper, which as far as I'm aware, it doesn't really happen this way. It's kind of like communism. On paper, it sounds great, but in the real world, it doesn't happen quite that way. Same thing with capitalism. On paper, it sounds great, but the moment corporations start coming into play, things just get all fuckered up. Anyway, yeah. Loads of fun. So, and that does bring us to the last piece of epic fails that we have for this evening, which is the announcement that essentially Epic signed an exclusivity deal with 2K, who is was Take-Two. They're one of the biggest publishers in the gaming industry right now. And so there's going to be several games going exclusive to the Epic Game Store, which includes the highly anticipated Outer Worlds. I was really upset whenever I heard that. I was like, well, fuck. Screw you. But this also includes games like The Sinking City, Phoenix Point, Solar Ash Kingdom, Spellbreak, Dauntless. Like, Dauntless is another game that's looked promising coming up there.
Phoenix King is kind of aggravating too, because they kickstarted that game and specifically said we're launching on Steam and GOG.
Yep.
And then they went and did the exclusivity.
Yeah.
That's aggravating too.
Yep.
Well, and here's the thing is like, I'm going to quote myself on this just because it sounds prettier when I actually took the time to type it out. These developers, publishers seem to all be looking for the quick payout. Either they're the classic starving artists who need to pay back rent, or they have severely short-sighted greed. Since Epic is the only PC distributor paying for exclusivity, this is where all the asshats are going to land.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is,
that's a good point too.
And the thing is I'll note something else on here that was an important part of this announcement as well. Is Epic also announced a partnership with the Humble Store. Developers will be able to sell Epic Game Store keys via Humble, and Epic won't receive any revenue shares from those sales, which is the same thing that Steam does with Steam keys. All right, if you sell a Steam key on another store like Humble,
that's for now. But if they muscle Steam out enough out of that,
the idea of that, the whole point of that, is to get games onto the Steam client or onto the Epic Store client, right? That's the whole idea of it. Is it's just taking up market share,
right?
Yeah, that's an enticement factor for smaller titles to put their stuff through Humble, and then it makes them look good, right? Because Humble's all charitable and shit, and then they can
also IGN. Let's not forget IGN holds Humble. They're not extra charitable.
Yeah, no, that's the idea though, is that they kind of make themselves look good. It's a great all around like publicity move. Is that they're not doing it? They're not taking any not taking any money off of it. And the thing is that Tim Sweeney tries to pretend like Steam keys aren't a thing. If you go and if you look at Steam reviews, you actually see that Steam internally identifies a game purchased on Steam differently from a game activated via Steam key. They actually clearly separate them. The reason for that is because they're not making a cut off of the sales from Steam keys. They don't take their 30% cut. The store does, Green Man Game or Humble or whatever. Hell, I think my Witcher 3, I purchased it off of GOG, and GOG gave me a Steam key for it. That would be stupid of them to do if they were going to have to pay a 30% cut to Valve. So,
well, I remember when they did that, they were saying that it's because they're afraid of like the Kickstarters. You're getting the game, and it's not going to be true to what, like, you've got a colored opinion. It's basically paid reviewed that they're afraid of.
Yeah.
But yeah, saw right through that. It just they aren't getting the money from it.
Unfortunately, there's not enough people that are going to see through this PR bullshit.
Yeah.
No.
And the thing is that as I've been talking with people online, I find that there's a lot of people that have bought into at least some portion of this propaganda narrative, like either the Steam has a monopoly or Steam's cut is oppressive. By the way, I've heard no fucking developers or publishers coming out to say that Steam's 30%, and by the way, when I say Steam, I mean Steam, GOG, Green Man Gaming, Microsoft Store, PlayStation Store, every fucking store out there except for Discord and Epic charges a 30% cut. I've heard no publishers or developers come out and say that
the mobile stores still charge a 30% cut too. Google and Apple charge 30%.
Yeah.
It's industry standard at this point.
Yeah.
But what makes it disappointing is I actually think the Epic Store could be good if they got rid of, the spyware first off, and they stopped buying out exclusivity and just let the market go where they go.
The thing is that nobody, given the choice, people are not going to buy on Epic unless, like I said, the theory, the idea that Xaiphen, I think, came up with originally, which was there's a minimum price that the publisher sets for the game, and then essentially the storefront, wherever it happens to be, tags their own
choice into the consumers.
Yeah.
That was my idea, is put the choice on the consumers. You have cheaper on Epic with no features because Epic leaves it stripped down, charges less overhead for it, so you have a cheaper copy of the game. More or less, the developers make a minimum cut minimum income that they want from the game, no matter where it's sold. So it's cheaper on Epic, more expensive on Steam. Steam backs it with all the Steam benefits. So do you want more features for a higher price, or do you want it stripped down for a lower price? Do you want the game? It's a matter of money versus features sort of thing, and not features of the game, but features of the distributor selling the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
that would put the power in the consumers, and Tim Sweeney is not all about that whatsoever, because that would take too much control away from him. He can't directly buy out consumers like he can buy out publishers.
Yeah, and the thing is that because of the fact that the Epic does not have a very good reputation as a company themselves, they have to rely on forcing people to the store in order to implement this plan. The other common one that I hear people buying into too is the whole idea that Steam has been around for years and hasn't really innovated at all. That because there's been nobody there to pressure them. I'm like, the funny thing is you're right. There hasn't really been anybody to pressure them. But the comedy is they've actually innovated a lot. Their push into VR, their push into cloud saving, they've been leading. Like, for example, GOG now has cloud saves, right? But that's because Steam implemented it first, and everybody's just more or less trying to catch up with some of the features that Steam is introducing. Now, there's been other areas where Steam has lagged behind, like, for example, their friends list and their social platform is garbage. And when Discord came out, put some pressure on them, that kind of pushed them to start improving that area. But
most games suck in the aspect of social areas. Let's be honest, the only social platform for games I've ever saw that I actually thought was good was where the Xbox 360 ended.
Yeah.
That's the only one I've ever considered to be good. There aren't any really good ones on the PC. Discord's one of the better ones, but I don't think there's any actually really great social platforms on PC. PlayStation's a mess. Nintendo's an even bigger mess.
Oh, yeah.
Xbox One is functional. Xbox One social system makes sense, but the 360s was better.
Yeah,
and I still totally equate that to Xbox being a social platform.
Yeah,
it's more of a social games platform than anything else.
But my major point is that the idea that Steam hasn't been really doing anything and improving anything since they haven't really innovated at all. I'm like, actually, they've been leading the charge in a lot of areas whenever you actually look at it. And mind you, I've been very critical of Valve in the past and still will be, mostly because Valve will pull some bullshit, and what really irks me is that Valve has a very passionate fanboy following that essentially dismisses anything that they do wrong, and that shit bugs me. That bugs me no matter if it's Bethesda, BioWare,
it doesn't matter
Valve.
what the company is. Yeah. That's just
so. To be clear, I'm not saying that Valve doesn't pull some bullshit, and I think that there are areas to improve. But for example, and okay, we'll get this out of the way. It was Kotaku. It was Nathan Grayson once again. In an article talking about the areas in which Steam has improved, he can't admit that Steam is actually innovating. He's got to be like, well, they're doing this really cool new thing, but they did this thing last week, and that's literally the whole article. And the funny thing about it is he actually interviewed one of the folks from Valve about the rape day thing that we talked about last podcast. And the guy said, so to be clear, the game was never for sale. Here's how the process works. A person sets up a store, that gets approved. Hey, their store's there. And that kind of just gives them a developer listing within Steam. And then they submit a game which will show up in their store as coming soon. And then we go and we look and approve or deny it. So at no point had Valve ever given the okay for this game to be up on the store. It was pending review. And, he outlined that. And then right after that, of course, Nathan Grayson's like, oh, but, things and there's reasons why, blah, 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 that doesn't work. I'm like, yeah, he apparently didn't give a shit. But at this point, like I said, I'm pretty
the narrative he was paid to project.
Well, I'm pretty certain. I'm pretty certain that Nathan Grayson at this point is the holy prophet that's working underneath Pope Tim Sweeney the Great.
Yeah, he's a paid puppet.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I don't know if he's paid. I find that that's an easy scapegoat. He could just literally have his own agenda, but it is unfortunately playing into Epic. But whatever that may be. My major point is that it's unfortunate that this is where we're at, and oftentimes when you hear people on the internet like us ranting about this, it's easy to dismiss. It's easy to say, oh, whatever, they're just a bunch of angry guys on the internet.
I say it. I call these guys angry all the time.
Yeah, except I'm not angry. I'm just a very well-informed person that that's trying to inform other people. Kev prefers to
if you're clever enough with it, I mean, you can gain a pretty good following by being an angry asshole.
Yeah.
Look at Yahtzee.
Young Ye.
He's fucking hilarious. I've been catching up with a lot of his old shit recently, and that is.
Oh, you mean
inspiring.
the no punctuation or
punctuation. So the no punctuation series, that is straight out inspiring.
Oh yeah, no, he's hilarious.
That's what made me fall in love with Jim Sterling. Actually, back in the day, I'm not liking where he's going these days. But 3-4 years ago, I was loving Jim Sterling just because he was angry, but he's angry for the right reasons.
Well, the thing is that nowadays,
Quiet Shy as well.
Quiet Shy, unfortunately, it's a little focused. I mean, she's branched out a little bit, but tends to be a bit focused on Warframe most part. But she does a great job of sarcasm, which I always enjoy. But with Jim Sterling, I think one of the lasting legacies that I really hope he's remembered for is that while he tends to just kind of be angry at stuff because obviously it doesn't sell if we're just saying, oh yeah, there wasn't much going on today, have a nice day. Nobody wants to talk about the stuff that's going well. It's always the problems that generate the most buzz, if you will. But one of the things that Jim Sterling did exceptionally well is he helped normalize talking points, clear, concise talking points about loot boxes, to the point where they have actually now are starting to fade from the market for the most part. I don't think they're going to get out of the FIFA Ultimate Team anytime soon. Let's be honest. EA will go to their fucking grave preventing them getting removed from FIFA Ultimate Team.
Shit, yeah.
But that being said, you look at Shadow of War, you look at Battlefront 2, those are huge fucking successes for the consumer. Because the outcry from the fans saying this is not okay, and largely thanks to Jim Sterling and others, but Jim Sterling helped really clarify things and get things to, rather than an incoherent screaming from the crowd, instead it became very focused and very concise points that were actionable. And I think that is something that he can do well. Unfortunately, sometimes he kind of just goes off rambling and ranting about stuff a little bit too much.
Like we do.
Like it's a group of 4 people arguing with each other?
Yeah.
Like a group of 4 people that keep talking about loot boxes?
Loot boxes are gambling, guys. Loot boxes are gambling. And in case you didn't know,
I was wondering when he was going to shout.
Loot boxes are gambling. So, yeah.
And games encouraging more gambling with more loot boxes than Dota.
So what is this that you're talking about? You've been rambling on about this. We got a couple more minutes.
The Dota loot boxes. It was a story. I had to find the story again.
This will be your final thought. So make it quick. Putting Kev on the spot.
Is praise Phil Spencer, praise Gaben, fuck Epic, AMD Master Race. That's all I had to say.
AMD Master Race.
He actually is AMD Master Race now. Well, no, he still has an NVIDIA GPU.
He's halfway there.
So
Xaiphen, I'm waiting for something better than my 1080. I'm not crazy.
Xaiphen, could you and Kev switch GPUs so that you have the 1080 and he has the Vega 64?
About the same performance. The Vega 64 is direct competitor with the 1080.
Yeah, so you guys switch GPUs and Kev can be all AMD all day. Yeah.
Except what's going to end up happening sometime down the road is I'm going to convert to Ryzen. Get rid of my Intel. I've been looking at it for a long time. It's just a matter of whenever it's going to be feasible.
I'm just looking at
I
honestly
want those more cores, but I want to be able to afford more cores.
I'm looking at my upgrade path like a reasonable
I
upgrade
feel
path.
so
It doesn't
constrained
make
in this
sense.
box.
It doesn't make sense for me to get Ryzen 64 or Vega 64 with a 1080. But Ryzen 7 does, or Vega 7 or whatever it is, Radeon 7, I forget what the fuck they call it. The 7 GPU from AMD doesn't make sense either because it's basically 1080 Ti. Come on,
Yeah.
Navi.
Uh-huh.
Be
Yeah.
good.
So in any case, Xaifen, final thoughts.
Fuck Tim Sweeney. I don't really have any great and grand final thoughts. I mean, this is a fucking shitstorm. You know, it's a propaganda war, and intelligent people are almost looking like they're losing. That's the sad part.
Intelligent people have been losing for decades.
How many of you guys have seen the movie Idiocracy?
Me.
You know I don't watch movies.
Yeah. So, by the way,
It made my head hurt.
Every time I go on the internet, I am reminded more and more that our world is heading towards that world in Idiocracy. It wasn't, that movie was intended as a comedy, but for me, it was an accurate prediction of the future.
It's most people I talk to on an individual basis can be smart. Most people, I believe, are smart as individuals. However, there's too many people that are. Yeah, there's too many people that are. It's got what plans crave. Too many people are so lazy they want to be told what to think.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh no, it's so bad. Like we and I'm going to bring work in this because I have all kinds of funny work stories here. So we know I work the help desk, and I mean, so what I'm going to do is stupid, easy stuff like password resets. Where people will come to me, I need my password reset. Okay, I manage like 40 different ones, 40 different systems. What do you want? My password. Do you want to get into Windows? Yes. Okay, here's a temporary password. This is your secure password. Log in and make a new one. Log into what? What did you come here for?
Help desk. Gotta love it.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's not everybody.
They need you
they're
to
like that
hold their
remedial.
hand.
And then, yes, they're that remedial. I had somebody the other day, they couldn't get on our company VPN. And I literally said, "Oh, I don't have internet access with my Windows profile." Yes, you do. Let me talk you through it. Click.
Well, here's an example of that sort of thing. Like, my opinion of mentality of people in general is, even if, you don't seem like you're that, or don't feel like you're that smart about a lot of things, you can very competently learn any particular subject if you have an interest in it. If it's fucking quantum physics, if you have an interest in it, you can teach that shit to yourself, even if you're not.
I've been speaking from experience there.
Mhm.
Even if you are not, even if you don't think you're that intelligent, it's capable. But a lot of this shit, most people just don't have the interest in. Everybody out there could learn about the computers, or at least the essentials that make people seem computer illiterate.
Mhm.
But it's just a matter of they don't care that much, so they're not going to learn it. They're going to want somebody to, hold their hand through it, tell them how to do it, because they just don't want to do it. They don't have the interest for it. It's not that they're completely incapable; they're incapable due to a lack of interest.
Yeah,
I can't remember the quote, but it was in the first Men in Black. It was like, people are stupid, but
a person is smart. People are dumb, panicky, and stupid, and you know it.
That's it.
Kevin.
And it's true.
I also want to give one shout out too while we're thinking about this. I'm pulling it off the topic here. Shout out to Quantic Dream. I appreciate you bringing your games to PC, but fuck you for using the Epic Store. I don't know if I'm strong enough to not play Beyond Two Souls.
At least we don't have to worry about Microsoft being bought out by Tim Sweeney. The Master Chief Collection is going to go to Steam.
The thing is that that's, truthfully now, and here's another bit of my final thoughts.
The Halo memes are great, by the way. The Halo fanboy or the Halo Steam fanboy memes where he's coming after Epic.
Yeah,
those memes are glorious.
Yes. Now I will point out here, for all of you people that are of this opinion, you've bought into Tim Sweeney's marketing narrative, is propaganda machine, that Steam is somehow and Valve are somehow a bully that has a monopoly on the PC market. I'll just point out to you that Epic is worth about 3 to 4 times as much as Valve.
Yeah.
3 to 4 times as much. Let that sink in when you think that Epic is the underdog in here. They can buy Valve if they wanted to, but they don't want to do that. They want to muscle Valve out because they can use their own proprietary tech, which is probably co-opted by the Chinese government. I'm going conspiratorial. I'm going conspiratorial. That's not probably the case yet.
I'm going to add to the conspiracy. It is spyware. Not might.
No. It is a spyware because it's accessing stuff on your computer that you didn't give it permission to. It is, and to go to Monkey's
Engine Empire, yeah. The sad part about it is the Unreal Engine is, probably one of the easier engines to work with, and it's very prolific. That is the sad thing, that they've actually done something right, and that is the Unreal Engine. Unfortunately, that's caused this mess led to this mess that we're in now.
Yeah. But yeah, in any case, just remember, Epic is actually much richer than Valve, so they're not the underdog here. Without me talking too much on here, Rose, final thoughts.
Well, all of Tim Sweeney's shit has gotten me to delete my Epic account. I loved free Subnautica. I mean, I never had the money to buy it anyway, because other games were priority. But when I'm giving up free shit because of somebody's bullshit, that's saying something. And the thing to remember is that us consumers still have a lot of power, and we got to flex it. We can't let this shit go without an answer from us.
Hulk Hogan flex.
Yep.
I agree completely.
Can't argue with that one at all. Yeah, I very publicly deleted my my Epic account.
Yeah, he did. He put that shit on Twitter. It was great.
I tweeted that shit out. What I didn't tweet out was the not so nice email. I toned it down because I was like, you know what, the customer service rep that has to fucking see this shit. It's not his fault. He's not Tim Sweeney. He doesn't deserve that anger.
He's trying to pay his rent.
I did not delete my Epic account only for one reason, and it's not the I don't want to let go of shit sort of thing. Is my gamer tag is very unique. I created that name. It does not exist anywhere else from where I've put it. And because I have that on there, I don't want somebody else coming in and snagging it once I delete that account and trying to represent me. Not that I'm a big public face or figure or anything else like that. It just, for some reason, that means something to me.
I mean, that the thing is that...
So it's occupying space. I will never be logging into Epic again. It's just a placeholder.
I mean, let's be honest.
Here's my thought on when you guys say you guys deleted the launcher, deleted your accounts. How much did you... And this is the reason mine is still in existence. How do you really, knowing what they did in the first place, do you really trust that they deleted your shit?
Oh, hell no.
No.
Because
it's a matter of, it's keeping them from collecting anything new.
Yeah.
It's from this point forward.
Yeah,
what they've already done, we can't do anything about, unfortunately.
The thing is it's done. Yeah, it's pretty well known at this point that that they are, like, everybody in Europe I hear talking about them, they're like, yeah, they don't abide by the GDPR at all, which tells me part of the GDPR is the quote-unquote right to be forgotten. And most certainly they don't appear to do that. And I would have no doubt that they're probably sending shit back to Tencent or in some way have that line of communication on, acting as an independent, advertiser, whatever. I don't know. I do not trust for 1 second that they will actually delete that information. They will keep it in a database for future reference.
What the fuck it is?
You are a statistic.
By the way, they're not advertising. They're not paying us for sponsorship or anything. I just as a point of service. Yeah, I mean, if they want to sponsor us, I'm not okay with it. But no, as a point of service, one of the things that is nice is that like the address and any of the information I had on that site was completely fictitious. So they didn't have my real address, they didn't have my real name or anything like that. In fact, almost no services do, largely because I have a service that I use called privacy.com that lets me have credit cards that I don't need to put in my actual real information to use them on a website. Which is super shiny. I know Xaiphen had some issues with it because there was they don't support.
They don't like
accounts.
It depends on what bank you use with them. Some banks, it will let you do a normal just a authentication effect, like say PayPal's use of your normal bank. It's like they'll create some deposits, like all right, that's your proper account number, routing number. In this case, they asked me to provide my username and password for my bank's my account's access to my bank. That I'm not okay with. That should not be the way they're doing with it. It should be some kind of a token at worst, not a full login access.
And just to note on there, and we can.
And that was issued particularly with my bank.
Yeah, but in any case, the nice thing that is nice about that service though is that it does provide that layer of you don't have to provide your personal information online. They don't sponsor us. I don't necessarily endorse them. They could, for all I know, they could be stealing information and selling it to Chinese themselves. For all you, it doesn't appear that way from my research, but you never really know nowadays.
Oh, so I know all I see all they're stealing it. They're in the kibosh with Tencent. They are friends with all the loot box people.
The thing is that so most people don't realize there's what is it? It's Alibaba, Tencent. What's the one that starts with a B? I can't remember. That are like the big Chinese conglomerates that are like huge and everywhere. They rival Amazon. They rival Microsoft. They rival Google. They're still slightly better than Facebook. But
but do they rival?
But they do make use of Facebook. Think about that.
Yeah. So in any case, though, to officially start getting things wrapped up on here. Obviously, if you are watching this stream on here, the Pixel Crashers, we do stream every Saturday night at 7 p.m. live on Twitch, on YouTube, and on Mixer. You can catch us every Saturday night. We alternate on one weekend. On one Saturday, we will do this podcast, as you're listening to right now or watching right now. And then on the other Saturday, we actually do a game stream where we sit down and we play a co-op game of some sort, harass each other, and usually it involves me making fun of Kev and Kev actually outscoring me, but me not wanting to admit it. In that sense, if you don't want to actually watch the podcast, if you prefer to listen to it, listen to it on your drive-through, waiting in traffic, going to work or some such like that in rush hour, we do also stream it on we do also upload it to podcast source, to every podcast source that you could possibly imagine. Mainly the big ones on there, but that list consists of several notable ones, including iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Stitcher, Breaker, Overcast, CastBox, PocketCast, and Republic Radio. So if you are on one of those services and you want to check out our podcast there, feel free to. We make it available there just as well, and it's probably a little bit more concise and slightly less incoherent. No, actually, it's the same. I take that back.
Yeah. No.
In any case,
loot box.
Yeah, Kev loves loot boxes. In any case, you can also find us on all of the other fun services out there. We have, at least the majority of us are on Twitter, posting up random shit. Xaiphen, in particular, posts up some really hilarious, incoherent jokes that you have to think about. They're really cerebral, which is kind of what's great about them.
Sometimes.
And
So you're up the jokes too?
yes. And then Kev just posts up a bunch of memes, so that's also good too. I go on.
Go to Kev.
And then, of course, as nobody is surprised, I go on giant Twitter rants that take up like 26,000 Twitter chains that people probably would be like, I read the first one.
We need to have somebody dedicated creating TLDRs for Mort's posts.
Yeah, I want to say that's the case. I want to say. Yeah.
I could, but I like being the silent stalker of all three of you.
Yeah. We also have a Discord server.
I go on Twitter rants.
Yeah.
I go on massive Twitter rants.
Uh-huh.
And they're
But
common.
they usually are. I rant yesterday about Xbox One being literal trash.
Yeah. Huh? In any case, we
That
also
was a
have a
good one.
Discord. We also have a Discord server that we also occasionally rant about stuff. That's usually where we argue the most, I would say. Because Kev will like post up some like console apologist nonsense, and then everybody else in the server will call him out and be like, "Oh, fucking console." No, I'm kidding. That's not. Really
And then I
what
come in
happens.
and Xaifen up the situation.
Yeah, he's
Which I
Xaifen.
tweeted out an exact 5-step process on how to Xaifen up the situation. That's probably the last one I posted, I think.
Probably.
And if you guys don't understand what Xaiphening up the situation is, that's kind of what we're doing to this outro right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But you can also, all of those links for everything you can find below where, like in the description of wherever you happen to be consuming this podcast, be it on one of the video streaming services or be it on one of the audio podcast thing. You can look at the description. You can find all sorts of fun links to find us and check us out and get in contact with it. We welcome anybody and everybody as long as you aren't a fanboy. So
We're toxic in the
We're
chat.
actually very friendly.
we're very
I wasn't
friendly.
very friendly, except for earlier in the chat. I admit I wasn't very friendly. He said, "Fuck all y'all," and I said,
For
"Bring your
shame,
girl."
Kev.
I admit to
For
that.
I don't acknowledge trolls. I just ban them. So in any case,
Yeah.
in any case, we're
I
gonna
had my
get
fun.
yeah, we're gonna get signed off here for the night, guys. We'll be back next week with, I guess, some Dragon Age Inquisition. If we even really talked about
I
it
think we
yet.
should do some Andromeda.
We haven't.
Because I missed Andromeda last week, and I was the one that
Kev,
paid
There's
for it.
two
Kev,
of us
you-
that have
Andromeda!
uninstalled
You
Andromeda from our
Andromeda!
systems.
Kev, you didn't actually hear the end of our game stream last week where I said fuck this game and I uninstalled it on stream.
He did. It was great.
So
I'm gonna go back and watch it.
So-
I'm sorry. I enjoyed.
I followed suit. I uninstalled it too. Not for quite the same reasons as I wanted to make space for another game.
yeah,
It should take too much room.
I enjoyed the jacuzzi, and it was great. And I had some fish, and I had some shrimp, and me and my wife spent some time together for our anniversary, and it was glorious. And I'm sorry I had to miss it.
oh,
Wife needed it, and I needed it.
The
And
thing
it was
is,
a jacuzzi, it felt great.
Relationships are important.
the thing is that you're not going to hear me say anything to the contrary of that. That's fine. Do your thing. But no, we're not playing Andromeda again. We did that. We did it on a couple streams like you wanted to. It's done now. However, Xaifen and I last night
Andromeda.
we did play some Breach last night, and that was kind of interesting. It was kind of like a little bit more of a high-tech version of Dragon Age Inquisition. So that was kind of interesting.
Is
so
it free?
Oh, Vermintide.
Yes, well,
we
no,
got
I don't
Vermintide
know.
too. We can do Vermintide.
was okay.
We'll have to discuss that. We'll post up something about it.
Yeah.
We'll probably tweet it out at some point this week once we
I'm
figure out
gonna
what the
get
fuck
them on
we're doing.
Mass Effect. They don't know yet. I'm gonna get them on Mass Effect.
No, they're not.
3.
We can play Mass Effect
Kev,
3.
I've still
Mass
got
Effect
it
3.
installed. You can play with me.
There you go. Kev, you can play with
But
Rose.
you don't understand. Part of my fun is to antagonize and torment Mort. Xaiphen's just an innocent bystander.
At this
That
point,
was
I'm
rather-
over it. There's no antagonizing me. I'm over it. We're not playing it again on the stream.
Like you remember, Rose, when we came into the video chat or the video call, what's the first thing I wanted to tell Mort about my Razer RGB headphones?
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
I thought for sure it would trigger him.
No, the thing is that I try to
I've
go.
got Logitech.
Honestly,
It's better.
now this to be completely candid with folks on here. I give Kev a lot of shit for his Razer equipment and his Razer fanboyism, and I like to rile his feathers over that and make fun of him. But to be honest with you, I think I think Razer makes stuff that looks good. I just think that its quality is pretty shit, and I won't buy it personally.
Yeah.
But I like it. That's boring, right? Nobody just wants to say like, looks good, but I just personally wouldn't buy it. Nobody wants to hear that. They want to hear like me say, Kev is a Razer fanboy, and then Kev says, oh, I got a new Razer thing, and I'll be like, typical Razer fanboy. Anyway.
And then he goes on and on about
If it
Logitech,
weren't
and
true-
I'm a Logitech fanboy.
Anyway, let's go ahead and get things closed down. We'll be back next week with some game of some sort on here, and
Praise Phil Spencer.
and Kev will make some kind of random ass comment, that sort of thing. because that's how we roll around here. Anyway.
Hasta luego.
Love you, Lisa Sue.
Yeah, no. Let's not do that, guys.
Race your master race.
Keeps talking. Stop.
I know.
That's the part I noticed.
I love you.
Are we still live?
I love you. Xbox.
I just like to see how long Kev will talk. That's my
And I want you all to let this go without cutting me off. Todd Howard, we don't believe you are alive.
I personally am going to switch over to the shitty mic because I want to move around.
We're still alive, I think. Yes, we are.
I know. I'm giving everyone a heads up that I'm